or USA, Mexico, and Canada. So in America, if we want to raise interest rates, imagine that, we cannot do it. There is no switch. Like, I want to make it warmer, there's no temperature control. Somebody in Camden, America wants to raise rates? No. Somebody in Ontario, Toronto, wherever, are going to raise rates. So they've given up control of the M to the European Central Bank, which is the European Central Bank, ECB, in Frankfurt. This baby is mostly a German story. And we will see why next chapter. So French and German, Northern European story, mostly German story, one common monetary policy. So we will see there's some challenges with it. Can you imagine, you want to make this room cooler, it's too hot? Sorry, I can't call Officer Anthony downstairs. Camden will have to do it. So the European Union, please note, and now the UK was never in this. They were in something earlier, but not in the Eurozone. So the EU, by the way, is different. EU, European Union, is larger, and it's a free trade zone. In quotes. So there are no border crossings. There are other. That's all I want to say right now. It's a trade zone, and so that's what Brexit was. So the British left the EU. Brexit was leaving this. One of the biggest mistakes they ever made, by the way. And so that was where Brexit comes from. So the Brits left EU, and that was Brexit. UK, never in here. Switzerland is in neither, by the way. I can't remember Norway. Are you in the Eurozone?
Norway is not.
It's not so because oil and fishing, the Norwegians didn't want to lose control over that. So here we go. So let's do so we have monetary policy challenges. Number one, the one-size-fits-all policy. And please note, this was in 1996 and 97, a long time ago, when this was first happening. There were people who were saying, this cannot work, this is fraught with problems. Let's see, one-size-fits-all monetary policy. Remember, all the countries, they cannot change their own M. Only one central bank can change for the whole lot of them. So here is scenario one. Here we are, Keynesian aggregate supply. And let's say this is Y sluggish. And this is Germany, France, Benelux, which is Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. This is P0. And down below, I'm just kind of making up the scenario. This it's not what it looks like right now, just as an example. This is Y very high. And this is Portugal, Spain, Ireland, etc. So the fringe countries, or the fringe of the Eurozone. This is P high. And after you finish copying, you folks tell me, what do you see here? It's a problem here. Keep in mind, these guys call the shots. So they call the shots. It's a German thing and a French thing in that order. So you guys tell me, this is the one-size-fits-all problem. What do you see happening here?
So in the bottom happens is if the inflation is high.
Well, so let's go with this one here. Let's start here. What do these big boys and girls want to happen?
They want to have.
Which curve in which
They
direction?
want the demand curve. in which
Yes, so they want the ECB, want the European Central Bank to increase and decrease interest rates and go from here to higher. They want to jumpstart, right? To jumpstart. What will that do to these French countries? This has been a problem from day one. Sorry? Yes, look at this diagram, but this thing would, but look at this, but this will throw these countries into overheating, serious overheating. And so this has been a problem from the beginning. Just the fact that when they're all moving at the same speed, that's fine. You can, if all the rooms in Camden, Newark, New Brunswick are hot, then Camden can make it cooler down there and we'll all be happy. But if you're moving at different speeds, here you're going to have an issue. Sorry? So, you know what? Give me another 10 minutes and let's do the second one. Perfectly timed question. He was asking me, is this what's happening with the Greeks and the Germans? The Germans are telling the Greeks, you're going to have austerity. You're going to plan more. Who retires when you're 45, 50 years old? Make more Greek yogurt. And the Greeks, when the Germans tell the Greeks, what goes through the Greeks? Remember, I gave a little story in class. What's the Greeks' response to when the Germans tell them what to do? What? Yes. We're going to talk about the Acropolis. Remember that whole thing? Remember? In the exam, there will be some bonus questions with 0 points, just to see if you're listening to all my stories. So, like who jumped off the Acropolis and why? I told you that story? Apparently, yes, we have. So there you go. Make sure you know that one. 0 points just for fun. What was Cain's wife's name? The one who changed him? Made him nice? Wow. You wrote it down? You remembered it? I wish you. What did she do for a living?
She was a ballerina.
Wow, that story really got to you.
It stuck with me.
So the Greeks like wrapping themselves with a flag and throwing themselves off, she's completely forgotten that story. Made no effect on her. Thank you, Greg, for remembering that big sacrifice. What, Sarah?
Lydia Lokobova.
You wrote that down?
I did.
Wow. President Sarah.
Linda.
Not Linda, please.
Lydia.
Close enough.
Actually, you better stop now while you're ahead. You're ahead right now. Okay, so here we go, the second one, going back to your comment, the stability factor. Stay with me. This is where the problems are lying today. And we're reaching a huge milestone right now, the stability factor. Did I tell you that someday when I have time, remind me to tell you how Guns N' Roses sat right with me. Langdana was surrounded by Guns N' Roses. Yes, and to this day, I'm thinking they are having the same story, the inverse. Langdana was here. They go, no way. They go, yeah, way. I'm thinking the flip is also true. Someday remind me. Not today. So here we are, second challenge. The stability part. Okay, this is a big one, folks. The stability pact is that in the Eurozone, This is a German thing, okay? So in the Eurozone, budget deficit divided by the GDP cannot be greater than 3%. Forget even 5. So this is extremely tight German fiscal discipline, or else big fines. So therefore, cannot really use G. So here we go. Was it Dan? Was it Dan? Here we go. So cannot really use G to jumpstart the economy. And let's see what's going on here. So this comes from, and this is getting ahead of myself here. Today we are going into the hyperinflation story, but this is a German thing. And the Germans remembered their hyperinflation after World War I. It was called the Weimar Republic, right after World War I. I'm going to get into that today, and I got some currency to show you. So they built this. They don't even want 5%, they want 3%. Gotta have real sustainable G, or big fines. So who has 3%? In other words, don't even think about G. And so let's see what's going on. Erase this.
What's up?
So here we are.
Oh, it can't
So,
be greater than.
so for example, here we are, some Eurozone country, some Eurozone country. And this is Y low and P zero. Change in aggregate supply. Aggregate demand. And so here we are. This is where the whole thing is boiling over today. So, question 1, can it unilaterally increase money supply? What do you think?
No.
No. Give me a full answer. So can this country just say, hey, let's lower interest rates? And when you lower interest rates, their currency will weaken too as capital pops out and goes to the other country. So exports will get cheaper too. Can you do this? No. Why? Why? Why?
Germany said so?
Because can it unilaterally on its own? Come on, kids. Yeah, click on her. Can I change temperature here? So, come on, Jessica. Badia, Badivia. No, only the ECB can. Well, number 2, can it increase G? Like the Greeks want to. The Greeks want to do this. The Greeks are going, hey, weaken the euro, man, come on. So increasing M will make the euro weaker. Remember, to weaken anything, you increase the supply of the thing. To make your salaries lower, we crank out 20,000 MBAs, not 2,000. To weaken a currency, you make more of it. It's as simple as that. So increase M, lower interest rates, help us out. And the Germans go, no way. And you guys, your deficits are too big, So there's something in the book I'm going to make you read, something called the Maastricht Convergence Criteria. This is to be allowed to join the Eurozone. So to be in this club, anybody can't join this Euro club. Just because you're in Europe means you can't You cannot just by default be in the Eurozone. You have to qualify for it. So, read the Maastricht, that was in the town of Maastricht, is that in your country, right? And so, read that. Basically, to be allowed into this exclusive club, you need to have your deficit GDP ratio at 3% for like 2 years. Your debt, which is all the bonds, under 60% for like 2 years. Inflation under something for 2 years. It's like a macroeconomic physical. Like you want to join the Marines, you can't just walk in. You gotta get this right, this right, this right, this, all the metrics right to be allowed in. And so the Italians fudged it. They got their deficit down. What they did was deficit was 5%. Italians sold off part of their state-owned sector, and just when they had to check it at the right times, it became 3%. And so they qualified. It's like, you want to get into these old pants, and they're not fitting in, so you go upside down, and you hold your breath, and you do what you have to do, and quickly take a picture and go, hey, look, I got in. The Greeks, by the way, they just fudge the numbers. I love the Greeks. And so basically the Germans are telling the Greeks now, hey, look, you got in, all right, but get your G down. You're non-sustainable. And no, we will not do this. And so here's when the whole stories come back. Hey, excuse me, the Greeks tell the Germans, you don't tell us what to, excuse me, you don't tell us what to do, okay? We remember 1940, excuse me, don't tell us what to do. The guy jumped, Anushri, somebody did jump. Jumped, and all the school kids in Athens, they go there on a class trip. There's a shrine because the soldier wrapped himself in the flag and jumped. So all those tensions are coming back. So they can't do this. Can they do G? No. Stability Pact. Can they decrease taxes? What do you think? Solomon?
I think yes. Say again.
No.
No, there are too many national services. And so they don't want to give those up. Typically these countries have free college education. More holidays than you can ever imagine. Free this, free that, subsidized along high-speed trains, on and on. Doctor visits you at home. When I was teaching in France, it was mind-boggling. Doctor visits you at home, $15 it costs. So they don't want to give those up. And so they can't do M, they can't do G, they can't do T. They're stuck. And I'm going to show you something before the break. This is the agony of grace, and it's really painful. We have suicides. The country is stuck. The Germans are going, whose idea was this? Why did we bring everybody into the Eurozone? We were happy. I'm going to answer that later today. But what we have is, so why is the European Central Bank being so difficult in the past? Why no increase in them? I'm going to leave you with this before the break. So what is the big reason? Okay, fine, they had a hyperinflation, which we're going to talk about. But come on, help out a little bit. Because the Germans and the French, listen carefully, don't believe in this model. They're saying, Langdana, what is this? What are you doing? What is that? They believe in this model. You can see it for the first time. Here's the aggregate demand. Here's the aggregate supply. Let's say here is Y0, here is P0, and this was a German model.
So you don't believe in the Keynesian model?
They absolutely not. Who said that? So is it Dan? Yes. So Dan, yes, they don't believe in Keynes. If I were to show up there and teach in Frankfurt Business School or whatever, and mention Keynes with that diagram, security would burst in the usual thing. Because look at this, if you believed in this diagram, and please understand, this is not an academic exercise. This is the European Central Bank. If you believed in this, before we go, you tell me, what would happen if you did M? If you really believed in this, and by the way, R. Milton Friedman was the one who largely came up with this, Rutgers Milton Friedman. If you believed in this, tell me why M makes no difference and why Germans used to hate M. What would that do?
Output remains the same.
Yes. Look at this. Increasing in M, increasing in G, no change in output or G. What's the only thing you get here?
You can actually do that here.
Only get more inflation. This was a huge, huge problem. And we talked about this in 1996. Many years ago, when they were putting this together, we said, this is like oil and water. How will this work? The Northern Europeans look like this. The Southern Europeans, the Greeks, the Portuguese, the Italians, they're Keynesians. I promise I'll tell you how to figure out who is what. But they look like this. They cannot be in bed together. You can't have them in bed together. Oil and water is not even close. They're different in terms of what works for them. And they are this. And so that was underlying the intransigence of the European Central Bank telling the Greeks, no, G, listen to us. G will not help you. Don't look at us for M. M will not help. The world looks like this. What's the only way you can get more output in this world? Moving aggregate demand is useless. What's the only way you can get more Y? Only way you can get more Y is moving this curve out. In chapter 10, what is this known as? If you were to take this aggregate supply curve and move it out, what would you be called? Supply siders. And so that's where they were coming from. They said, no, telling the Greeks, no. No M, no G. Now, nobody retires at the age of 45. In Germany, we are working till 95. And even then, we're working on the way to the funeral. No. And so the Greeks go, excuse me, don't tell me what to do. And don't use that joke about making Greek yogurt. It's not even made in Greece. They don't make it in Greece. It's a marketing thing. And so here we are. Now please listen. This was the European Central Bank until an Italian. They brought an Italian to run it. Mario Draghi. He's gone now. Now it's Christine Lagarde. What do you think happens? You're bringing an Italian to run that. What goes through your mind? What do Italians look like? I'm talking of in a macro perspective. Swarthy, dark-haired, they're good dancers, they know food. No. Come on, from a macro perspective. Remember, there are two kinds of people in the world. You look like this, or you look like that. Two kinds of people. This is great at parties. You can go up to somebody and say, hey. Yeah, so the Keynesians, like that. So here comes Mario Draghi in a European Central Bank. It was a disaster. I'm going to take you there. It's like you get a Tibetan vegetarian chef to run a Texas steakhouse. The guy or the woman may have had Michelin 3-star rating, but it won't work. It just won't work. I know, and I hope from India I can say this, the Subway sandwich people, they're all Gujaratis. We have Gujaratis here, right? They're all vegetarians. So when you say, put the turkey on, and they go, right angle, I'm like, throw it on. So I'm going to take you there. 20 minutes, folks, please, quickly, and then we follow.